Hi, this is Kristen here, and welcome to another process video. And today I'm working on day 22 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christy's Beautiful Life. And today I'm going to be working with Prima's Serene Petals line. And I thought that this line would be perfect to document a couple pictures of my daughter during her newborn photo shoot. And I picked out some of these of her dressed in her little pink. She was swaddled in pink and had a little pink bonnet on it, and very kind of feminine photograph. So I thought that this line went perfectly with this. So I picked out a couple papers that had kind of like almost a wood grain background with some kind of like flourishes on either side of it to use as my double layout, and then this pink brick background. And I'm going to start working with some of the die cut pieces here. I'm just pulling in pieces that I think would work. Not necessarily anywhere on the layout, just getting a general idea for how I want this to end up building up. Now, the sketch does show, I think it's like, well, one big picture, maybe a couple on the other. I do decide to use 4 photographs on the other side just to kind of try to get quite a few worked in. And then I kind of felt like I wanted something kind of like soft, since this flower line was like kind of, real feminine feeling. So I decided to pull in these vellum pieces. This is from Mintay, and they're just kind of like doilies. And so you do have to fussy cut them out. I just felt like this was going to work really well. And so I love it tucked in under this spot over here. I do end up pulling this kind of ledger paper off, and I will rearrange some pieces here. But as soon as I got that tucked in there, I was like, okay, now I kind of have an idea of how I'm going to build up the clusters, because I really just felt like that really worked well there. So I'm just kind of messing around with where exactly I want it positioned. And then I'm going to pick up some of these floral clusters and start working those in. So this will be a longer video because it is a double layout. I think this is close to 20 minutes long, so I really tried to keep the videos as short as possible while still showing quite a bit of my process. And so obviously with a double layout, it's, it's about 10 minutes per page, I guess. So in the second layout actually goes a little bit quicker, the one on the right, just because the one on the left I was still kind of figuring things out, and kind of once I got my one on the left kind of figured out, I decided kind of the one on the right went a little bit quicker. I thought I wanted to pull in another one of these doilies on the other side, but I just felt like then it was like a little bit too much. So I'm trying to work with it here to see if I want it anywhere else, and I just decided no. I didn't like it tucked in on the other corner. I just felt like it kind of was distracting a little bit. And so these are vellum flowers from Mintay. And I decided, you know what? Let's see if one of these would look good worked in instead of another doily, because it'd be a little bit smaller. So you will see me kind of moving this around on the page in different spots to try to figure out where exactly I want it. And I thought, well, originally I wanted a doily up here, so maybe a flower up here would look good. And I really decide that I like how that looks. Adds a little bit more softness to the page. And so now that I'm kind of getting that figured out, I decide I want to work in some of the florals that was also included in the Serene Petals collection line. And, of course, Prima is like well known for their flowers. I mean, they've been making flower bunches forever. And so I wanted to definitely get some of those worked in on the page. And I've got like a ton of floral pieces in my stash. I need to really start trying to work those in. I remember like back in the day, like, probably 2010, like I went on like I was buying everything Prima and paper flowers and things like that, because I was kind of like predominantly like kind of like the trend back then was to use like a lot of florals on your layouts like this, like the, the 3D florals like this. And I just sometimes really struggle to get them on the layout to where they, they look natural. And again, like I don't like to use them on every layout just because, you want at least for me, I want some 3D, but I want, the layouts to be somewhat flat, just in that way they don't get damaged and you have more room in your photo albums. But I feel like to use them here and there, it's not, not a huge deal. I'm not really going to put much of a title on this. I like this Joy and Love, and I decide that that's what I'm going to kind of use my title. And then this little tag that you see me working with here, it says New Beginning. So I felt like that was very appropriate. I'm trying to decide if I want that kind of randomly there. So again, like I'm still trying to figure out. I do decide I'm going to cut the doilies in half and work them in the page a little bit more here. So I put one at the top and one at the bottom. I'm trying to kind of figure out where exactly I want them positioned, and I decide to switch them. And then I decide, I'm like, let me build up this cluster up here a little bit more with this. So I will switch the vellum flowers around here. So I felt like the other one was a little bit fuller. So the one I'm kind of messing with there, I thought was a little bit fuller and would make more sense kind of behind the bigger cluster there, since it's a little bit fuller of a cluster. And then tuck this one back in over here. So all the pieces that you see me working with are all from the Serene Petals line, except for the vellum pieces, which that's Mintay. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting everything adhered down. Isn't that brick pretty? It's just, you don't really see like a lot of paper where it's got like, pink brick. So I just thought that was perfect for this photograph of her. And then here I'm just trying to determine if I've left myself enough room at the bottom, which I decide I didn't. So I am going to peel this back up. You will see me pulling my my Cricut spatula a lot. I really feel like it's good to use to kind of break up that adhesive when you've made a mistake like that without ripping the page. You don't bend your photographs doing it. So I use it probably more for that than actually pulling up my die cut pieces, like when I, cut on my machine. And so I cut out quite a bit of the video because, it's kind of starting to get long. So at this point I've adhered everything down. And then I'm still working with, now this ribbon, I was kind of disappointed. I had it positioned differently, but I had the flowers like in a different position. And once I got everything glued down, I kind of had changed the position of the flowers. And so the ribbon wasn't quite working where I had it, but I do decide I still kind of like it tucked up underneath there, so I adhere it down. I had it more in like a 3D effect before, but I think I had the two petals kind of dropped back behind, not so much around the page, but kind of once I got things built up and worked out there, that's just kind of how they looked. They looked better to me like that. So this little vellum piece there is part of that doily vellum sheet, so it just came with like little smaller pieces, and I decided to put that there. Initially I was kind of back and forth on it because I thought, well, does it look like a snowflake? But I just kind of felt like I needed a little bit of something else there, I guess, and so I do end up putting that there with the joy and love sayings. I'm going to get that clock adhered down. And then I just felt like there was a big blank space here. So I was like, I don't want to add a lot because I want, obviously my clusters to mostly be centered around her photograph. But I decided that that banner looks really good there. Kind of, I just feel like kind of completes the look there. So I end up putting that there. And then I'm going to start working on the second page. So I'm going to kind of have these side by side just so that way I can get everything lined up. And then I always, usually like once I get one page done and everything lined up on the second one, then I usually will move the first one off. And so that way I can start to have enough room to work on it. And I didn't show what I had mounted the photographs on because, again, I was trying to keep this process not, from being too long. So those were, I add that butterfly. I end up putting it on the other side there. So I end up covering up that moth. I was kind of back and forth on whether or not to leave the moth there, but I just felt like I wanted something more in 3D up there, so I'm still kind of trying to decide if there's anything else I went up here. I definitely wanted, I don't know, for some reason I just kept feeling like I wanted something 3D up there, so I decided, I'm like, I'm going to just cover up the moth. I like that. So never be afraid to cover up stuff that, which, I mean, the moth was cute, but I just wanted something 3D up there. Going back to what I had backed the photographs in, I had backed them with, it was just paper from the Serene Petals line. So it was kind of like a real floral, like a heavy floral paper, and it had like a plain side to it and then a floral side to it. So that's what my photograph is backed in, is one side of the paper and then the back side of it. So double mounted. I'm going to pull in another doily from that vellum piece. And again, now that I've gotten, my one side done, I've kind of got more of an idea of how I'm going to cluster this side out. Now this will be a little bit different over here just because, I've got more pictures. And I didn't want both sides to look exactly the same. So the clusters will be a little bit different over here. But, still kind of the same idea. So I will pull in some of the floral vellum as well. So that's what I'm cutting out down there. And I've had these vellum pieces. I think I purchased them probably around Christmas time. And they'd kind of been sitting there, and I knew that there was going to eventually be like a perfect piece for them. So, and really a lot of the Mintay, like especially like their Lullaby Lane and things like that, it's real kind of light and airy. I feel like those vellum pieces are perfect for that, just because, you know, they're such a light and airy, have a light and airy look to them, that they're perfect for anything that's kind of, you know, you need a little bit more dimension, but, you know, you don't want anything like super, just something kind of subtle. So I was trying to decide if I liked that, because I knew I was going to have to cut that leaf off a little bit. But so a lot of time, like I'll kind of hold my hand up there to kind of block, you know, that piece hanging off, just to see if I would like where I have to cut it, just to make sure, you know, ultimately do I want it there. So I definitely am going to work in some more of those Prima flowers. And then I definitely want to work in another one of those ribbons, because they're just really cute. And they have a very, very good 3D look to them, just the way that they're shaded and things like that. So working some more of the moths and butterflies that came in this. I do cut off the end of it because it was kind of quite a bit of white back there, so I just kind of cut off the very tip of it. And then this little journaling kind of piece, I'm going to tuck in up on the left-hand side, and then I'll start working in some vellum behind it. I don't know if I think I work in different vellum. I don't know if I go with that piece or not. So it's just one of the, you know, little circle ones. I go ahead and fussy cut it out. I had just kind of roughly cut it out, but I was kind of back and forth on whether or not I was going to use it there. So again, I don't want it to look too much like a snowflake, because the smaller ones definitely have a little bit more of a snowflake appearance to them, just because of the way that they're shaped. And then I knew I wanted to pull in some more, at least one more of the vellum doilies here, because I just thought they were so pretty, and felt like since I had two worked in on the other page, I kind of wanted to get two worked in here. I was kind of trying to decide where exactly I wanted them. So initially I thought I was going to put them at the top and bottom of the page, but then I felt like they looked too lined up there. So I like that one a little bit on the brick there, but then I was kind of concerned, like with gluing, would it be really obvious, since that brick's a little bit more solid and I can't really tuck it in behind anything there. I feel like when you glue vellum down, like your glue marks are a lot less noticeable on lighter paper, or obviously pattern paper, because the pattern kind of distracts you from it. The darker paper, like when you glue it down, I feel like is a lot more noticeable, like when you glue your vellum down. So I will always usually try to tuck vellum if I can. just because it does drive me crazy when you can see the glue marks. So I'm going to start getting everything adhered down here. I'm still making like those final little adjustments, like as I'm building my clusters and gluing them down. I do decide to move that smaller vellum off to the brick, kind of like I did on the other side, because I just felt like with that vellum behind that cluster up on the left-hand side, it was just looking, it wasn't looking right, so. I'm just looking here. There's like some more pieces I want to work in here, so we'll get the flowers down along with that ribbon. I pull in, this is some cardstock sticker, so it's just a bee on like a circle with like some writing in the background. I just wanted to get a couple more pieces worked in on this side, since I didn't have like, you know, words or titles or anything like that over here. And this says, love this, and it's just circle. Again, a cardstock sticker. And then I'm going to add in some sequins. So this was a Pretty Little Studio sequins. I don't think they sell it. In fact, it was in like a big order that I had ordered from them, and I don't know if it was just like kind of an extra, like a thank you, like, you know, because it was a pretty big order. So here are some close-up shots of the second page, and I'm going to go ahead and glue the dots on, or the sequins onto the first page, and here are some close-ups of the first page. Again, some more close-up pictures of the first. And some close-ups of the second page. And I appreciate you coming by to watch another process video, and I'm really happy how this turned out. I just think it turned out beautifully. So, which Prima and the Mintay papers worked well together.